Hi guys, I wanted to make this video for everyone out there who, like me, was frustrated with the inadequate remedies out there for androgenic hair loss, male pattern hair loss or female pattern hair loss. Right now the go-to remedies are, of course, minoxidil, which is rogaine, and finasteride, which is propecia. Now, a little background about me. This video is about a regimen that I now do, which has put my hair loss to a complete halt. It's been extremely effective. However, it's kind of an extreme remedy that the person that's looking for more of a casual, easy to do remedy might not like. This is more for someone who really wants to put their hair loss to a complete halt and are serious about it. So a little background first. I started losing my hair around the age of 21. I'm now 29. And for the first handful of years I used exclusively minoxidil, rogaine, topically, and dutasteride or Avodart orally. Now, dutasteride is similar to finasteride, which is propecia. Dutasteride, however, is much more potent. It stays in the body longer. It blocks the formation of both types of DHT, whereas finasteride only blocks the formation of one type of DHT. It's a much more potent medication than finasteride. However, GlaxoSmithKline, as of this date, still has its patent in place, and it's an extremely expensive medication if you get the brand name version. There are, luckily, some generic ripoffs from India. The quality might be a little suspect, however, I've been using them and I haven't had any trouble right now. So this is my current regimen, and I'll explain it to you because, frankly, it's worked incredibly well for me. I'm not a doctor, so I can't recommend this to other people. I just want to show you what I do, and if it seems something you're interested in, I encourage you to explore it yourself. What I currently do is I still use the dutasteride. I use this generic version here. It's called Dutast. That's the brand name, the generic brand name. Like all other forms of dutasteride, it's 0.5 milligrams. I take this once a day, and if it weren't for this, I'd be completely bald, but right now I have a full head of hair. However, when I first started taking it, it only brought my hair loss to a slow crawl. It didn't halt it. What I've added to my regimen, which has been extremely powerful at bringing it to a halt, is spironolactone. Now this is a very potent medication, and it's not for everyone. It can have some very serious feminizing side effects for a lot of men depending on the dosage. I'm 130 pounds and I take 50 milligrams a day, and I don't seem to have many side effects, if at all. However, if I were to up the dose, I'm sure I would. Now I take this orally once a day. So just to explain a little bit of the chemistry, the dutasteride is an enzyme blocker that prevents the conversion of testosterone into DHT, into both types of DHT. So it's a very potent medication in that regard. Spironolactone actually blocks the receptor sites for androgens. It blocks the DHT receptor sites in the hair follicle as well as the rest of the body. And it blocks it not just for DHT but also testosterone, which is why it can be so, which is why it can wreak havoc for some men. However, for me, at 50 milligrams, it seems to be doing its job, and I'm not suffering any side effects. So that's what I do orally. Now, like any hair loss regimen, you've got to have an oral and a topical regimen. What I do topically, like many men, I use Nizoral shampoo. I use the 1%, which is over the counter. 2% is more expensive and you need a prescription, and frankly, I've read studies that show it's no more or less effective than the 1%. And with this regimen, frankly, this is going to do just fine. So I recommend the 1%. Now with that, so I put some of this every morning after I take a shower when my hair is still wet. I put some of this in my hand, and I take a few sprinkles of this and add it to that. This is capsaicin. This is chili powder. It's very high on the Scoville scale. I can't remember specifically, but you will literally feel like your scalp is burning. It's so hot, and I recommend the hottest you can find. There are some real dilemmas when it comes to using this. Some people may have exposed scalp from years of hair loss, and this will kind of turn your scalp orange and it'll be noticeable, so you might not want to use it. Also, it can get in your eyes, which is really annoying, but frankly it's worth it to me. And I have a full head of hair, so it doesn't show. And if you do have a full head of hair, you can hide it very effectively. It does kind of discolor your scalp though. Now, the last thing I add to this topical regimen every morning is this. Now this is, despite the label, it's not rosemary. This is powderized version of these pills. I use a coffee grinder and I make a powderized version. This is spironolactone. As I mentioned before, it's pretty much the most powerful competitive inhibitor for DHT receptor sites that you can find. Topically, obviously it has fewer side effects than it does orally, so you can be a little bit more liberal with it. I take a few, so I have this in my hand, I take a few sprinkles of this, and then I add a few sprinkles of this, I mix it into a lather, and I put it in my hair when my hair is still wet. Now, typically with shampoo you wash it out, and this is where a lot of people are probably going to draw the line and think it's just too gross, but I'll tell you what I do anyways, since it works, frankly, and if you're serious about it, you want to go all the way with it. I leave the shampoo with all the ingredients in my hair all day long. After applying it when my hair is wet, it dries out eventually, and at that point I can style my hair without any difficulty, and you can't tell. It's basically just another hair product. Some people will have already said on a lot of the message boards that that's really bad for your hair, dries out the scalp, etc., etc. Well, all I can say is that it works for me. My hair has never looked better. I'm almost back to where it was when I was a 16-year-old. I will give you a little preview. This is what my hair looks like now. I have a full head of hair, as you can tell. So, this is my regimen. If you're frustrated like I was with the typical regimen, which is rogaine and propecia, this might just be for you. It's way more potent. Obviously it has more risks, and it's a little bit more onerous, but for me it's totally worth it, and frankly it's not that expensive. All of these medications require a prescription. Avodart, my doctor prescribed it without much hesitation. Spironolactone is harder. You're going to be hard pressed to find a doctor that's willing to prescribe this to a man because it's known to have such feminizing side effects. It's usually prescribed as a diuretic medication for heart conditions. You're going to have a hard time getting a doctor to prescribe this. However, as most people know, there are plenty of online pharmacies that don't require prescriptions, and you can find these things at a very reasonable price. So I'll leave it at that when it comes to getting your hands on these things. So that's my regimen. I hope this helps you. I know how frustrating it can be to be fighting such an uphill battle, but for me this worked. So thank you for your time.